here. All right. Today we're talking all about networking, which you guys have been talking about networking all week. We're going to get into IP allocation via subnets and CIDR rules or CIDR blocks. Like I was saying before, we're going to skip lesson 1. This is now a reading challenge, and we're getting into lesson 2. And I actually think this will maybe make more sense after we do my little lab here. So I'll read this, but I'm not going to do a ton of reading today, so I don't want to read you guys to death. But please do go ahead and just read over this today. There's not a ton here, right? This isn't a lot. So it should be a light day. All right. So I do this a little bit different because if you want to learn about subnets and CIDR rules, then you need to learn about subnet masks, and you need to learn just a little bit about binary base 2, and you need to understand a little bit about like IP addresses, public versus private, and just a few little caveats. So we're just going to go through this little cheat sheet. I've got some cool, where are they at down here? So also, if you look at this, I don't want people freaking out. This basically right here, we're not going through all this. This is all for you guys' reference. So feel free to grab this document. So here, all this down, this is all this reference, right? Grab this document, copy it into like VS Code, and you guys can use this or use GPT to make your own cheat sheet, but we got some games here at the end. I find that subnetting is really hard and it's just hard in general, but if you can apply it a little bit, that makes it make a little more sense. So here's some application that I think will actually work. I played this one yesterday. It's kind of neat. So maybe we'll run through a game when we're done here. All right, so like I say, we're not going beyond this point here. We'll stop here. So there's really not a lot here to go through. All right, does anybody know binary? We're going to bounce around a little bit. We're going to go to my binary cheat sheet. Anybody know binary? Just like the basics of binary?
I mean, I had to learn it a long time ago when I
It's,
master program, but
I'm the
It's
same
just
way.
it's just a number system. Like
Yeah.
Roman numerals was a number system. I know the Sumerians had like a 34 base number system.
Yeah. It's just like
It's just a
basic.
way of representing numbers.
Yeah, yeah. I learned binary and then I'll like forget binary. But it's really only thing we need to know for binary is we're using binary as a way to represent different values. And so this will make more sense when we start looking at this guy up here, the subnet mask cheat sheet. This is the big one. Like this is what you're going to be using if you play those games, like our practical application, to go into this subnet mask chart. And you'll see over here, you've got bits, right? So this is a 0 bit, this is 1 bit, all the way down to 31 bits, right? And so with a 0 bit mask here, you can only have one IP address. But if you go all the way down to 31, actually, I don't know what this is. Yeah, 31, you're going to get like, 2 million, right? And so we don't go through that here. The reason why is because, well, let's just start here. What is a 1-bit number? Possible values are 0 and 1, right? And 2-bit number, well, you can have 0, 0, 0, 1, 1, 0, 1, 1. So you can represent 4 different numbers, right? That's what we got here. 3 bits, you can represent 8 different numbers. And the same 4-bit, you can represent 16. And then when you go to 6-bit, you can represent 64. And that's what it looks like, right? We're just representing, that's it. That's all it is. And so I want you just refer to this a little bit. You don't need, this is just more for your knowledge, like what the heck is binary? What does this mean? This cheat sheet here, I use all the time. I use this all the time. Like this is like you'll use this a lot if you do any sort of networking. All right, so scroll up here to the top. And I'll read some of this. There's not a lot to read here. So in the world of networking and understanding IP addresses and subnet mask, it's crucial. And it really, really is. So think of an IP address as a home address for devices on a network, and subnet mask as the maps that help route traffic efficiently. And so what is an IP address? It's an internet protocol address, is a unique identifier assigned to each device connected to a network. It consists of 4 numbers called octets. And so this is an octet, right? It's the first octet. This is the second octet, third and the fourth, separated by periods, and each ranging from 0 to 255. All right. And so these octets represent a portion of the address that helps us identify the network and the host device. So each of these represents something, right? Like at my work, and I'll get down to this more, but like the first octet is the class of the subnet, and then the second octet is our site. So we have physical sites, like we have sites in New York and Chicago and Singapore and London. So this will represent the site. And this octet will represent the VLAN, and this last octet represents the device, the actual device's IP address. So say you have 50 different 50 different devices, then it would be like it'd be 192.168.1 dot, wouldn't be dot one, it'd be like dot two, dot three for the second device, and so on and so forth. Um, Private versus public IP addresses, they look very different. And so like we'll use a public one first. So like Google is 8.8.8.8, and you can prove that if you go into your terminal. And what have we got going on here? You can do it. Oh, this is me, I think, giving Troy his permissions. All right. This should work. So if you ever want to know if your machine that you're on has access to the internet, just you can ping like Google. All right. And I'm just pinging Google and it's responding. So I do this a lot because some of our hosts don't have internet. And I'm like, well, I'm trying to download a package. I'll ping Google to find out, oh, this thing doesn't have internet. Right. So that's Google there. Cloudflare, OpenDNS. So these are just examples of public IP addresses. And then these are examples of private IP addresses. This is the kind of stuff that I'm working with. All right. Home, schools, businesses, things that aren't routable to the internet. You can have a private IP address that actually routes to the internet, but anyways. Reserved IP ranges, these are not publicly routable. So like this is on your local machine. So that's your address. It's called the loopback address right here. And then you've got some things that are reserved. We use multicast at work, but these are just all special ranges that you would use. This would be more advanced stuff. All right, so what are subnet masks? And so they divide IP addresses in the network that you're creating into different portions. So it's a way to like break up your network and isolate it. So like I said, the last octet represents the host portion. So the host being in the device that IP address is assigned to. Everything else before it is like not the device. It's where that device is living, which VLAN it's on, which site it's on, what kind of class that network is. CIDR notation is just whenever you see this // So these are all CIDR blocks. This is a CIDR notation. Very, very confusing stuff to me when I first started. But your base network, I guess your average network is a /24. And then if you notice, if you go above a /24, your addresses go down, the total amount that you can have on that subnet. And then as you go, as you go up in numbers, the amount of addresses go down. As you go down, they go up. And so this table, again, it links to this guy over here. Again, this will make more sense when we start playing these little games and signing our own addresses. All right. So yeah, these are your octets. And so here we go. This breaks it down right here. So this indicates this is a class C network. So all class Cs are 192s. This right here, this is the part of the private IP range. This would be your site. That's not a very good explanation, but this is the site where a site is imagine the physical site, right? And this is your VLAN, subnet VLAN right here. And then this is your network address. When you're going and you're assigning addresses, you're generally, you're going and you're like, okay, what's my available addresses? Oh, I've got 192.168.1, and then I've got everything up to like 100. So you're like, okay, I'll grab 192.168.1, 101. That's a free IP address. I'll go ping that sucker, see if it's free, and then you assign it. And that's how you find free IP addresses and assign them to servers. All right. So Why the X and the X? So again, this is all for private networks. Home, small businesses. I wouldn't say small businesses. I would say just commerce in general uses this. Non-routable access. So, and then this is kind of false. It says it's not accessible from the internet, but you actually can set up proxies and make it accessible. But in general, they start quartered off from the internet. All right, so let's use the cheat sheet here and figure some stuff out. So suppose you're configuring a network with an IP range 192.168.1.0 with a /28. So the first thing you would do is you would go to your cheat sheet and you'd find the /28, right? So can anybody tell me on a /28 network how many devices you could have, how many IP addresses you could have on that network?
16 minus 2.
Yeah, who said that, Nick?
Yes,
That Nick? Okay, yeah, Nick knows this stuff. So why is it -2?
because the first one and the last one are reserved for something.
Yeah, like generally you reserve the first, and this isn't like this is a standard, but you could do it however you want. But general the convention is the first IP address is your gateway. So that's literally your gateway for everything on this /28 to go out and talk to the network. And the last IP is generally reserved for what's called broadcast. So you can broadcast to anything that's on that /28. So those 14 devices, you would use that IP to communicate, to actually broadcast to those devices. So yeah, so for a slash like this again, so your general /24 is like that's the base. This is where it starts, right? This is generally you start with a /24. So you'll have 254 available IPs. Yep, so that's exactly right. And so we've got some cool little tricks to figure out, well, how do you figure out this, right? It's this raised to the second power -2. I believe is that right? What would be 8 raised to second power -2? I think it's 256. If you do that math, I think it's down here. Got a little cheat sheet somewhere. Yeah, right here. Number of subnets, right? So 2 raised to the number of subnets -2. Nick nailed it. All right, so we'll go back up here. So we're doing a /28. It tells us here, does that math for us. It's like, okay, you got 16 available addresses, but 14 are, I'm sorry, 16 available, but 14 usable, right? So you got 2 for the net, 2 here, 1 for the network and a broadcast address. The network, that just means the gateway. That's literally called your gateway. All right, so I don't know, that could be changed to gateway. All right, so subnet details. So yeah, again, this identifies the subnet. The gateway literally says the gateway here is the first usable address assigned to the router. So that's this right here. This is our gateway. And then so 16 would be, or sorry, because 15 would be our broadcast address. All right, so it's saying between 2 and 14, these are assignable. And so when you're setting up your network, you want to know, well, how many devices are we going to place on this network? And that's how you decide, what CIDR you want, what /22, /24, like what are you going to build? All right, so representations, kind of went over all this. This is basically how you're connecting whatever's on that subnet to talk to your router, is a gateway to the router to get out to your network. Right, and yep, showing your usable IPs is just breaking down everything that we said. And again, broadcast is just how you broadcast to any device on that subnet. All right, and then this understanding gateway placement, it's usually the first usable IP, but sometimes we'll use the last. We use the last on some things, but generally we stick with the first. But the idea is just to try to be, try to use the same thing every time. So my company's 2 companies that merged, and some of them did it one way and some of it did it the other way, and it's an absolute pain in the butt. So yeah, consistency is good. Again, this is a really, really helpful, really, really helpful cheat sheet. I even have a link to this. I can try, if you guys don't want to just copy, if you want the link to the page for this, it's pretty good. We went over understanding binary bits. If you want to understand this more, just play with GPT. And I do have a game here that has some binary stuff. Just some quick notes. Like we said, network address, first IP in the subnet is usually used by the network to identify the subnet. Gateway, Usable host IPs. Yeah, we talked about all this stuff. This is your little formula for calculating the number of subnets and hosts based on the CIDR block. And yeah, let's actually get into some application. So before we get going, I know that was quick, but I really want to get you sites playing around with this stuff. I think that will help your understanding. But let's go ahead and talk a little bit, and you guys can hit me with some questions, and I'll do my best to answer.